Well, today marks 1 year since that deadly shooting at Apalachee High School. 4 people were killed, 9 others injured, and an entire community was forever shaken. Now, what happened in Barrow County that day changed families, friends, and neighbors, and it left scars that remain 1 year later. Ron Jones is leading our live team coverage from Apalachee High School, looking back at that day and how the community is moving forward now. Ron, we know it is such a somber day where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not too far from where the students have come out of the classrooms, and just a handful of these students. We saw some school buses drive up, picking up some of those kids, a few cars in the parking lot as well. But as you know, Faith, students, teachers, and families are coming together for what's being called a day of prevailing love. So within the last hour or so, the students who showed up to school today walked out of the building to the buses and to the cars, and classes were optional, as you know, with excused absences offered so students could reflect at home. And those who did attend spent the day giving back, taking part in services and service projects at places like Habitat for Humanity. District-wide Barrow County student and staff all wore Apalachee's colors, blue and gold, and every school paused for a moment of reflection as well. And that reflection centered on the 4 lives lost, students Christian Angulo and Mason Schermerhorn, and the 2 math teachers, Richard Aspinwall, who also used to be the coach here, coached football here, and Christina Irmi. Now, the community is going to have a vigil later on tonight at 7 o'clock at the school's flagpole to honor many of those victims, honor all those victims. But for many today, it was more about giving back and finding ways to heal together, the family and the students. But it also brought back difficult memories of that horrible, that tragic day. 11 Alive's Joe Ripley is here, right here on school grounds, to take a look back at how that day all unfolded. Joe?
Yeah, Rod. So as you remember, a year ago, it was a very different scene, much quieter. Today, September 4th, 2025, but the scenes are still playing and still fresh for so many people, from parents to teachers to the students themselves. Just another reminder that this shooting, even 1 year later, has rocked this community. The morning of September 4th, 2024, 10:20 a.m. in Winder.
We do have an active situation at Apalachee High School right now.
The alarm system went off, and within minutes, Barrow County deputies and emergency crews rushed to the scene.
I heard like 4 loud gunshots or bangs.
Apalachee senior Stephanie Folgar says she ran to the bathroom.
You're not moving, anybody injured?
Other students locked themselves in a closet until police gave the all clear.
I felt scared because that's when I actually realized it's real, that it's actually happening here. I never thought it would happen in the school. 2 students and 2 teachers were shot and killed. 9 others were injured. Just 5 minutes after the GBI says Colt Gray opened fire inside Apalachee High School, he surrendered to school resource officers.
I thought I was going to die, and I was going to go to the bathroom right before it happened, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I would probably be dead right now if I did.
Outside, students evacuated to the football field. Parents raced to the school to check on their kids.
I feel sorry for the kids that they've had to experience such evil.
And nearby schools went on lockdown out of precaution.
You don't think that this is going to happen to you or have something like this happen to you so close to you.
It was carnage. There was blood everywhere. You could smell the gunpowder. You could smell a lot of screaming, yelling, a little bit of chaos.
As the day unfolded, Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith praised first responders and those who saved so many lives.
Hate will not prevail in this county. Love will prevail over what happened today.
Students held a vigil the night of the shooting.
It could have been me.
Trying their best to lean on one another despite loss.
You know, you can only hear thoughts and prayers so much to get fed up with it.
By nightfall, Governor Brian Kemp and state officials acknowledged the past few hours of awe and the years of pain to come.
These are our neighbors, these are our friends, and this community is hurting today.
1 year later,
we don't know if our safety is guaranteed at school anymore.
This community continues to heal. They may struggle, but they're still Apalachee strong even after the morning of September 4th, 2024. Of those injured, according to authorities, 8 were students, 1 was a teacher. The Barrow County School District has, since that shooting, implemented new safety measures district-wide, such as better mental health training for teachers, weapons detection systems, as well as classroom phones. And you want to note tonight, Ron, every school now also has a school resource officer.
All right, Joe, thanks a lot for the update, and anything it takes to keep all of these kids safe and to reassure the parents and the families that their children will be safe at school. Thank you. By the way, Democratic lawmakers and families of Apalachee High School victims and students and supporters of gun control all speaking out on the 1-year anniversary, of course, which is today. And this morning they gathered at the state capitol. One woman said that her sister was in class that day, but survived the shooting. She and lawmakers like Representative Michelle Au say that tackling gun violence and mental health must be a priority.
The shooter was just 14 years old. It is natural to ask, how could this happen? How could a 14-year-old get access to this weapon unsupervised? What is a basic thing, a concrete solution that we have to prevent this from happening again?
This past year has been heavy. Grief has no rule book. For some, it has meant quiet reflection. For others, it has meant speaking loudly, demanding action, refusing to let silence be the final word.
And as the community calls for change and looks to heal, the suspected gunman and his father are still awaiting trial. But we do have some new information here to tell you about. Today we learned that Colin Gray, the father of accused shooter Colt Gray, is set to go to trial on February 9th. Now, as he's accused, as you know, of providing the gun prosecutors say Colt Gray used in that shooting. His case marks the first of its kind in Georgia, where a parent is being held liable for a crime their child is accused of committing. And Colt Gray, now 15 years old, still does not have a trial date. Last fall, a grand jury indicted him on 55 criminal charges. He's being charged as an adult, even though he's 15. His previous attorney said that they're considering a non-negotiated plea deal after his father's trial is complete. And of course, we're going to stay on top of that for you. We got much more coming up in the next half hour. You're going to hear from the man who was head coach of the Apalachee High School football team at the time of the shooting, and he tells us what life is like 1 year after losing his assistant coach, Richard Aspinwall, and what he is doing now.
We want to welcome you back into 11 Alive News at 4 as we come up on 4:30. And it's been a year since that shooting at Apalachee High School, a tragedy that left deep scars across Barrow County. And tonight, families and students, they are finding ways to honor the victims and continue their own healing. Ron Jones is joining us live tonight in Winder with how the community is remembering such a difficult day. Hey, Ron.
It really has been, Faith. So as soon as I got here, a young man ran up to me. I thought he was a student, but he says, I'm just here to honor the victims. He graduated last year remotely because he was here during that tragic day. But he said, I still feel a connection to this family, a connection to this high school. And that is why he is here to honor them tonight. And tonight, this is all about honoring the lives of the students, Mason Schermerhorn and also Christian Angelo, along with teachers Christina Irami and Coach Rick Aspinwall, whose lives were taken way too soon. And the loss also weighed very heavy on Apalachee's head coach, Mike Hancock. Aspinwall was his assistant coach at the time and a very close friend. Hancock finished the previous school year elsewhere and now coaches at Loganville High School. And he says the shooting left him battling depression and PTSD, but leaning on his faith and community helped him to move forward.
God placed me in that position. He didn't place me in that position to go 18-0. He placed me in that position, to lead during that time. And during that time, I leaned on my faith. Love will prevail. And I think that showed there's a lot of love and there's a lot of genuine care in that community, and there still is.
Hancock says that the love within the Appalachia community continues to stand out even through all of this pain. So the shooting also put a huge spotlight on school safety and gun access. One bill passed, but other proposals are still stalled. For that and more, let's go to 11 Alive Doug Richards. He joins us live from the Capitol. So Doug, what happened to those proposals aimed at keeping guns out of the hands of teenagers at home?
Well, it's worth remembering, Ron, that in the weeks and months after Apalachee, reporters would periodically ask Governor Brian Kemp what sort of law could be written in response to what happened at Apalachee, and he would typically respond by saying he did not want to politicize that event and didn't really want to talk about it in detail. Weeks passed, the legislature convened, a bunch of gun bills were introduced, and the Republican leadership followed suit by mostly disregarding them. When Georgia's House Speaker John Burns got behind a bill to fortify the safety of schools from intruders and weapons, it got bipartisan support in the aftermath of the Apalachee High School shooting. The law, signed with fanfare by Governor Brian Kemp, did nothing to restrict gun access.
None of the gun safety bills I have sponsored in the past 5 years in the legislature have passed.
This year, Democrat Michelle Au introduced House Bills 1 through 4, gun bills that encouraged or required the safe storage of guns, plus a background check and a waiting period for gun buyers. Au's 4 bills were among 29 gun bills introduced during the last legislative session. Not a single gun bill passed. Most didn't even get a committee hearing.
Certainly the inclination from the Conservative Party is that any restriction on gun ownership is viewed unfavorably.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One bill that did get a hearing showed how protective some Republicans are of gun rights, even just months after Apalachee.
What we're trying to do is respond to business concerns.
A gun rights Republican had dropped HB 472, a bill that would have allowed the Georgia World Congress Center to keep guns out of Centennial Olympic Park during concerts. The 420 Festival had declined to book the park because the law prevented it from barring guns.
I'm not concerned about guns.
Republican lawmakers were mostly alarmed.
Second Amendment rights is a very precious thing. The Second Amendment is can be so misconstrued and can be changed.
Republican Alan Powell moved to snuff the bill before a public hearing could even start.
I would make a motion for a do not pass recommendation.
To the disbelief of Democrats.
But you did a do not pass?
So that puts us out of our misery and we can get on to other issues.
The committee tabled the Republican-backed pro-business gun bill. Lawmakers were willing to fortify schools, but without gun legislation.
It allowed people's sort of urgency around the issue to fade, and people did tend to settle back into the more sort of partisanized talking points.
And it's worth noting that of the 29 bills, there were a handful of Republican bills that also got introduced and got disregarded by the leadership. All those bills will still be alive when the second year of the biennial legislative session convenes in January. Live at the Capitol, Doug Richards, 11 Alive News.
All right, Doug, thanks a lot for that perspective, and thanks for staying on top of that for us at the Capitol.
This community deserves more than just words. It deserves the courage of leaders who will do what's right even when it's hard.
Our community was forever changed, but love has and will prevail.
1 year ago today, lives were forever changed after a gunman opened fire at Apalachee High School, killing 4 people.
Tonight, we reflect on the tragedy and the spirit of resilience within the community. That is where we begin tonight. Good evening, and thanks so much for being with us. I'm Jennifer Bellamy.
And I'm Faith Jesse, and tonight the community continues to remember the mass shooting that happened inside those walls at Apalachee High School 1 year ago today. We do have live team coverage tonight in Barrow County covering every angle of the shooting and how students in the community are reflecting. We want to get straight out to our Ron Jones, and we know that, Ron, you have been out in Winder all day today. You've been hearing from the community, hearing from students and families. What are they telling you?
Yeah, that's right. So, Faith and Jennifer, this is what we know so far, is that it's been a very somber day as people pause to try to take a moment to remember the shooting that changed 4 lives after it unfolded on Jay Hall on the morning of this same day last year. The shooting at Apalachee High School is still fresh on the minds of many of these students, parents and teachers, and the community as well. So we saw very few students actually walk into Apalachee High School today. Classes were optional with excused absences offered so students could reflect at home. And those who did attend spent the day giving back, taking part in service projects at places like Habitat for Humanity. And this afternoon, we were here as those school buses were pulling off to take students home for the day. Now, 4 lives, as you know, 4 lives were taken when a suspected gunman opened fire right here at Apalachee High School. 2 students and 2 teachers shot and killed. Christian Angelo, he was just 14 years old at the time, and his family remembers him as a teenager who was just a good kid, described as loving, sweet, and caring, and telling 11 Alive that he loved to play video games with his friends. And 14-year-old Mason Schermerhorn is remembered as a funny and creative kid who just loved to give big hugs and had a great sense of humor. Christina Irami was a math teacher, and she is remembered as someone who cared deeply for her students and was a dedicated member of the Romanian Orthodox Church right here in Georgia. And Coach Richard Aspinwall was a beloved assistant football coach and educator. And several accounts said that he died trying to protect his students. Now, 9 other people were hurt on the day of that shooting. And tonight we're going to be taking a brief look back at what happened as all this unfolded one day from this same day last year. So the first 911 call coming in at 10:20 a.m. alerting law enforcement of an active shooting here at Apalachee High. Within minutes, Barrow County deputies and emergency crews rushed to the scene, and some students tell 11 Alive that they ran to the bathroom, others locking themselves in closets until police gave the all clear. Outside, students evacuated to the football field, and parents raced, as you know that they did, to the school to check on their kids and make sure they were okay. And just 5 minutes after the GBI says Colt Gray opened fire inside Apalachee High School, he surrendered to school resource officers. And folks, tonight, both the accused shooter, Colt Gray, and his father are facing murder charges for that tragedy that unfolded here last year. And there are also at least two civilian or civil cases in the works against Barrow County School Systems and also the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. And now we want to get over to our very own Grace King. She's right here at Apalachee High School. So Grace, where do things stand tonight?
Well, today, Barrow County Judge Nicholas Prim announced the trial for Colin Gray will start on February 9th. That'll likely be the first of several trials in both civil and criminal court that we'll see. Within minutes of the September 4th tragedy, authorities arrested 14-year-old Colt Gray, alleging he killed 4 people and wounded 9 others at his high school.
He will be charged with murder and he will be tried as an adult.
The next day, authorities arrested his father, Colin Gray, too, creating a first-of-its-kind case in Georgia where a parent is held liable for a crime their child is accused of.
His actions of leaving that firearm available to Colt Gray is why we're here today.
Colin's trial, now scheduled for February 9th, will be heard by jurors from Hall County. Judge Nicholas Prim hopes that'll avoid potential biases.
What we're trying to do here is have a fair, clean trial.
Colt Gray could take a non-negotiated plea after his father's trial, according to his former attorneys.
We are here for the possible scheduling of a plea.
In civil court, attorney Mike Pugliese tells 11 Alive he's prepared to file 2 separate lawsuits on behalf of victims and their families this October against the Barrow County School System and the Jackson County Sheriff's Office.
I gotta take you at your word, and I hope you're being honest with me.
They investigated prior threats the FBI says were from Colt Gray.
If they would not have dropped the ball, you and I wouldn't be talking today about innocent lives being taken.
Pugliese says both parties have denied any liability or wrongdoing as they prepare to take their fight to court. In Barrow County, Grace King, 11 Alive News. Now in Georgia, you have 2 years to file personal injury claims in civil court, so we could likely see more lawsuits in the next year. Ron.
All right, Grace, thanks a lot for the update. By the way, today, at the state capitol, families and students, they began to share some of their concerns as well. They began to share some of their struggles and grief. So we heard from an Apalachee High School graduate who was inside the classroom when the shooting actually took place. And she says that she sent her goodbyes to her family because she did not know if she would make it out alive.
The minutes we sat there in the dark, hot, compacted classroom felt like hours waiting for someone to come in and rescue us. I have never been put into such a tragic, traumatizing, evil situation. We all can agree in this room that we need to protect our children. No child deserves to have the fear of having to go to school. No child deserves to experience what we have experienced. It's not fair.
Now, we should point out that the mass shooting here at Apalachee High School prompted state lawmakers to pass a school safety bill, and the lawmaker who carried the bill was a Republican from Winder. A year ago, Apalachee High School just had installed a system that enabled school employees to wear a badge with a push-button alert system. That system, made by a certain company, alerted law enforcement quickly, enabling them to subdue the gunman. The measure signed into law by Governor Brian Kemp standardized that and other safety measures in schools throughout the state.
We had Centegix online a month or so before the incident, so absolutely saved lives. It was probably one of the best things we did with some of the school safety money that the state's provided over the years.
By the way, Persinger's school safety bill got signed into law this year with support from both political parties. And coming up tonight at 5:30, we're going to take a look at how the community will come out to remember this tragedy 1 year later. But before I toss it back to you ladies in the studio, there's a young lady. She was walking around handing out these bracelets. And this is for the folks who are going to come here to that vigil tonight at 7 o'clock, and she handed it out to some of us journalists as well. This is about awareness when it comes to gun safety, or when it comes to using a gun safety. And this one has the colors of Apalachee High School. And so she's asking everyone who shows up to the vigil to wear both of these bracelets to honor the victims as well.
And we are certainly seeing so many ways that the community is looking to take care of one another, Ron, and spread awareness. We appreciate all of your reporting today. Thank you so much. We do have extensive coverage online surrounding the shooting and the year that's followed, the lives lost, the discussions it sparked, the changes made, and how those victims are being remembered. You can find it all online at our website, 11alive.com. Tonight at 5:30, we are taking time to pause and reflect on the Apalachee High School shooting tragedy that happened 1 year ago today.
That's right, the shooting claiming the lives of 4 people, 2 teachers and 2 students. Among those victims was Mason Schermerhorn and Christian Angulo, who were both students, as well as Christina Ermy and Coach Ricky Aspinwall. They were both teachers. Another teacher and 8 more students were wounded, 7 of them hit by gunfire. And that shooting, leaving the school's survivors in the community forever changed.
Let's send you out now to 11 Alive's Ron Jones, live tonight in Winder. Ron, are people starting to gather? We know that there are some vigils and events planned this evening as well.
Yeah, a small crowd is starting to slowly come out here to pay their respects. And there are events, we should point this out, Jennifer, there are events being held today to remember this tragedy, of course. And earlier today, there was one for the survivors and families. They came together at the state capitol. So tonight, this is the one that you're talking about. There will be a vigil planned right here at Apalachee High School. It's going to be happening at 7. The community-led event is happening outside of the school. It's going to be held at a flagpole. Now, another vigil, we should point out, is hosted by the group Change for Chi, is happening tomorrow. Change for Chi was formed by an Apalachee High School alum after the shooting last year, and that student and community vigil is going to be at 7 tomorrow. Now, over the last year, of course, students and the school community as a whole have undergone significant change, as you can imagine. The shooting impacting mental health for many folks out here. So we want to get you over to 11 Alive, Joe Ripley, who is also in Winder with me tonight. So, Joe, you spoke to the head football coach who had to step down because of the impacts to his mental health, right?
That's exactly right, Ron. He and an alum we spoke with from Apalachee replay that day 1 year ago every now and again in their heads. They each lost loved ones, friends, and co-workers in that shooting that happened a year ago. So to them, moving forward means embracing that phrase, Apalachee Strong, by leaning on one another. Kira McConaughey reflects on her future. She goes to Georgia Gwinnett College, hoping to one day become a special ed teacher.
Kira
I was so looking forward to graduation. I was like, oh my gosh, get me out of this place.
Her senior year at Apalachee High School stained by a mass shooting.
It sounded like banging on lockers, and we didn't know what it was, but you knew it wasn't right.
September 4th, 2024, the day 2 teachers and 2 students were killed. 9 others were hurt. Text messages to her family show the terror Kira felt. One text saying, "If something happens, I love y'all."
I've never lost somebody to such an act of evil.
Kira says her friend was shot in the leg.
I just remember being so scared for my life. I didn't know if I was gonna make it out or if I was gonna be pulled out.
There's times when I replay that day. I think we all do, that were involved.
Mike Hancock was the head coach for the Apalachee High football team at the time.
And then when we got word of everything, we went and locked down in the field house. And, that was when, phones started going off. Kids were getting texts. We're getting texts. Hey, what's going on? How are you? Are you okay?
Hancock lost his assistant, Richard Aspinwall, in the shooting. Hancock finished out the year at another school and now coaches at Loganville High School. He's battled months of depression and PTSD following the shooting, with his faith keeping him grounded.
God placed me in that position. He didn't place me in that position to go 18-0. He placed me in that position, to lead during that time. And during that time, I leaned on my faith.
And though the losses linger, love stands out.
Love will prevail. And I think that showed there's a lot of love and there's a lot of genuine care in that community, and there still is.
With every step forward, Kira McConaughey embodies the phrase Appalachee strong, finding purpose in tragedy.
That shows you that just because something so tragic and so traumatizing happened at Apalachee, we were still and still are moving forward from it.
And as a matter of fact, Kira's grandmother's birthday is actually on September 4th. It is today, so you can imagine she has a lot of mixed emotions about this date. Kira says her grandmother told her her greatest birthday gift was watching and knowing that her granddaughter got out of Apalachee High School alive. Ron?
All right, Joe, thanks a lot. And we're seeing that love is absolutely prevailing here at Apalachee High School and the community as well. We want to point out, too, before I toss it back to you, folks are now bringing flowers to the flagpole right here because that vigil is going to take place at the flagpole at Apalachee High School. But we're going to continue our coverage coming up tonight at 6. We're going to hear from the family of one of those victims. But for now, I'm going to send it back to you, Jennifer.
All right, Ron, thank you so much. And we do have extensive coverage for you online surrounding the shooting and the year that has been since then, the lives lost, the discussions it has sparked, the changes that we've seen made, and how those victims are being remembered. You can find it all on our website, 11alive.com.
1 year later, we are not the same. We are stronger, we are louder, and we are more determined than ever.
2 students, 2 teachers, lives stolen in a moment of senseless violence at Apalachee High School. Tonight, the Barrow County community remembers and shows the strength it takes to keep moving forward. That is where we begin this evening at 6 o'clock, a moment that deeply pierced a tight-knit community sense of peace and safety when a shooting took 4 lives inside school walls. Teachers Christina Irmi and Coach Richard Aspinwall and 2 14-year-old students, Mason Schermerhorn and Christian Angulo, all killed. We have team coverage where we'll hear from current and former students trying to move on. But first, our Ron Jones takes a look back at what's changed since last year.
Yeah, that's right, Jennifer. Today, as you can imagine, school leaders pushing for togetherness. They're pushing for togetherness as they held events throughout the area here. The one thing that we should also point out to you today, it's been a sense of calmness as students dismissed for the day. They were not required to attend classes at all, but students who did show up did not sit through a normal day of classes. Instead, they gave back, spending the day in service projects. And we were able to focus on healing, and they were able to focus on healing with mental health support activities. Just a year ago, it was a different scene. The shooting happened around 10:20 on Wednesday morning. The school's alarm system went off, and within minutes, Barrow County deputies and emergency crews rushed to the call. Students scrambled to find a hiding spot until police gave the all clear. And just 5 minutes after the GBI says Colt Gray opened fire inside Apalachee High School, he surrendered to school resource officers. And then students later evacuated to the football field as parents raced to the school to check on their kids to make sure that they were safe. And a year since then, since that shooting, the Barrow County School District has put in new safety measures in place, such as better mental health training for staff, weapons detection systems, and classroom phones. Every school also has a school resource officer, which is outstanding. One of those victims, Christian Angelo, he was just 14 years old and a freshman at Apalachee High School when his life was taken too soon. And tonight, in an interview you'll only see on 11 Alive, his older brother remembers his life and that day. Let's bring in 11 Alive's Angelina Salcido. You sat down with him. What did he have to say about his little brother?
You know, Ron, this interview with him was deeply personal. It's the very first sit-down that he has done, that the Angulos have done inside of their home since this shooting happened. And I can tell you that it was really raw. It was emotional, and everything that he had to say had some heartfelt meaning. I can tell you that that day, the Angulos had no idea that Christian was one of the 4 people killed until hours after they found out that someone had opened fire inside of Apalachee High School.
How do you even process something like that? Do you process it?
I still haven't processed it. Still, it's hard to believe. Like, someone that you're used to seeing like every day, and out of nowhere, like there's just, you don't see them no more. And it's something I don't wish on anybody.
Do you think about the other families too?
Oh yeah, all the time. I try to reach out. I talk to a lot of my brother's friends, or even I have kids from Apalachee reach out to me too, and you know, I try to support them as much as I can and be like a big brother to them.
And that support from Christian's friends in the community in Winder, and even from people that are abroad, is what kept Junior and his family going. We were able to see the altar that they have for Christian inside of the Angulos' home. Junior even took us inside of Christian's room, which has not been touched since last September. It was really touching because you got to see the games that he still has intact. We even saw the soda that he had drank the night before that shooting as well. So everything here is pretty emotional. Tonight you're going to hear a little bit more from Junior as well. In our full story, we'll talk a little bit about life after the shooting, of course, for the Angulos. We'll talk a little bit about school safety and how he feels about that as well. He's been to every single school board meeting since that day. And he'll have a message as well, not just for Junior's friends, but for the teachers and for the community of Winder that have really made sure that the Angulos are able to keep going.
That's right. And of course, they want to remember the names of all those lives that were taken as well. Angelina, thank you for the update. It was supposed to be a time of celebration for Apalachee High School's class of 2025, but the mass shooting last year stained graduation for hundreds of seniors out there, as you can imagine. 11 Alive's Joe Ripley joins us live now. And Joe, you spoke with one student who witnessed that gunfire last year. She's now graduated, but moving forward has been really challenging for her and many others.
That's right, Ron. A traumatic senior year for her, especially with a recent string of emergency hoaxes that you might have noticed going around different schools. And a lot of the students who attended Apalachee fear another mass shooting could happen at any moment. Kira McConaughey now attends Georgia Gwinnett College. She remembers hearing the gunfire 1 year ago, her face pressed against a window in her classroom, just trying to figure out what exactly was going on. She texted her parents as the school went on lockdown. One message reading, quote, "If something happens, I love y'all." 2 teachers and 2 students died, and Kira says her friend, who was shot in the leg, was one of the 9 injured. She credits her teachers, especially Coach Jordan Rushing, for acting quickly to keep students safe.
He was just very calm and very caring during the whole thing. I remember I was sitting next to him, and I remember I was panicking. I was crying, like I was trying to keep calm and keep my cries muffled. And I remember, like, me looking at him, and I was like, "Are we gonna die?" And he was like, "I don't know, but I got y'all."
Mike Hancock, meantime, spent nearly a decade as Apalachee's head football coach. She was there last season when that shooting happened. He lost one of his assistant coaches, Richard Aspinwall. Coach Hancock says he will always remember Coach A's smile, love for students, and love for his family. Coach A was known for loving his students and coaching them hard as well. Coach Hancock, meantime, now coaches at Loganville High School, just down the road here, about 20 minutes or so. But he plans to honor Coach A's legacy by eating a box of Mike and Ike's. He says that was Coach A's favorite candy. Ron?
Okay, Joe, thanks a lot. And as a community looks to heal tonight, of course, the suspected teenage shooter and his father are still awaiting trial. Today, we actually learned that Colin Gray, the father of the accused shooter, Colt Gray, is set to go to trial on February 9th. Now, he is accused of providing the gun prosecutors say that Colt Gray used in the shooting here at Apalachee. His case marks the first of its kind in Georgia, where a parent is being held liable for a crime their child is accused of committing. Colt Gray, now 15 years old, has yet to go to trial, and just last fall, a grand jury indicted him on 55 criminal counts. He's being charged as an adult despite being 15 years old. His previous attorney said that they're considering a non-negotiated plea after his father's trial is actually complete.
As we continue remembering the day that has reshaped Barrow County, for Sheriff Judd Smith, the day the shooting happened at Apalachee High School was also a day when those called to serve in that community displayed their best. 11 Alive's Cody Alcorn sat down with Sheriff Smith to reflect.
You have reached Barrow County 911. If this is an emergency, please do not hang up. We are experiencing a high call volume.
September 4th, 2024.
Evil tried to take us to our knees.
Barrow County faced its darkest day.
He had in his heart to do evil.
11 people were shot inside J Hall at Apalachee High School.
There's not a single person in this community that's not affected in some way or another.
Time was not on anyone's side.
One of the things that I tell people is you have a plan A, plan B, you better have a plan Z.
The GBI says 14-year-old Colt Gray hid an assault-style rifle in his book bag just before 10:30 that Wednesday morning. Sheriff Judd Smith says Colt walked out of a bathroom and carried out his plan. 2 school resource officers ran towards the gunfire and in less than 40 seconds found Colt and stopped the killing spree.
I think we reacted as quickly as we could, and we stopped a lot of bloodshed that day. 38 seconds is a pretty good time.
Sheriff Smith says their training saved lives.
Having our RTF, our rescue task force, that was unheard of before.
There was no wait.
A lot of people's faith has been tested.
Sheriff Smith says firefighters and EMTs rushed into the school with deputies.
You got to trust that deputy to protect you.
And that's what you guys did?
We did, and we saved 4 people doing that. Doctors saying at Grady that had we not done that, we would have had 8 deaths.
Sheriff Smith says school policies also saved lives.
But what we did learn is that simple things make our schools safer. Closed doors.
The sheriff says locked classroom doors kept Colt out.
We learned a lot of what we did right versus what we did wrong. The reunification that day was an absolute mess with the parents. The right far outweighed the wrong.
A cowardly act that shocked this community, but a moment many say made Chi Nation stronger.
Just know that this will never define us. This is an event that is marked in time, but I'm so proud of Barrow County. You know, ordinary people did extraordinary things that day. It was amazing. So that's why we want to be remembered.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Ron Jones.
And I'm Jennifer Bellamy. First tonight, it has been 1 year since a mass shooting took the lives of 2 students and 2 teachers at Apalachee High School in Barrow County. And tonight, we remember those lives lost. 39-year-old math teacher and football coach Richard Aspinwall, known as Coach A, 53-year-old math teacher Christina Irami, and 14-year-old students Christian Angulo and Mason Schermerhorn.
And just hours ago, hundreds of people in the Barrow County community gathered at the flagpole of Apalachee High School for a vigil. It's the same spot they built a memorial 1 year ago for those 4 deeply missed lives.
2 of those lives were just beginning. Family friends tell 11 Alive 14-year-old Mason Schermerhorn loved playing video games like Disney and Legos.
And tonight we're hearing from the family of 14-year-old Christian Angelo for the very first time. 11 Alive's Angelina Salcido sat down exclusively with his older brother to talk about life after unimaginable loss.
Only 14, Christian Angulo was the youngest of his family. 1 year after the tragedy at Apalachee High School, his brother opened the door to their home for the very first time, determined not to let Christian's memory fade. He shows us how Christian's bright light still burns in their home and how it helps push his fight for change.
He was a good kid. He was always happy.
Happy birthday, Christian.
Only 14 years old.
Even though me and him were like, there was a big age difference, we would always play fight. We miss that. We miss everything about him.
Christian Angulo was the family's baby.
There's not a day that goes by that we don't miss him. It hits, you know, that he's not here no more.
May 15th, 2024 would be his last birthday.
Before, like, we would see both my siblings get on the bus, and now it's just one that leaves and comes back, and just, I know it's been a year already, but it still feels like it was yesterday.
Barrow County 911, what is the address of your emergency?
September 4th, 2024.
We do have an active situation at Apalachee-High School right now.
Deputies flooded the Winder High School just after 10 a.m. Christian, a freshman, and his sister Fabiola, a sophomore, both inside.
And I called my little sister, and she answered, and she started telling me, like, they're saying Christian got shot, and I don't know, I went crazy.
Ismael Angulo Jr. and his parents rushed to Apalachee to try and figure out what was going on. Hours would pass before they learned Christian, 14-year-old Mason Schermerhorn, and teachers Richard Aspinwall and Christina Irami were killed after an active shooter opened fire inside the school.
How do you even process something like that? Do you process it?
I still haven't processed it. It's someone that you're used to seeing like every day, and out of nowhere, like, there's just, you don't see them no more.
4 lives taken in a tragedy that shook this community. 1 year later, reminders of that day in Christian's bright light shine inside the Angulos' home.
That candle, we haven't turned it off.
Placed in Christian's altar.
A lot of those bears, those are the bears that people took to Apalachee.
Memories that keep them close.
The Laker ball, we won it at Six Flags.
Christian's games intact inside his room, still untouched. The soda he drank the night before the shooting, still on his desk.
The day I lost my brother, school safety has became like big for me.
My brother was killed in a senseless act.
Junior's mission now is to make change, sitting in on nearly every Barrow County Board of Education meeting since September 4th.
This is bigger than me, so this is for my brother.
Keeping Christian's spirit alive drives his purpose. Happy birthday. Despite the time that's passed, family and friends keep honoring an angel whose light they won't let fade.
Even though I know life can get hard, I know my little brother would want us to keep pushing. So I would ask his friends and his classmates to continue pushing through life and don't give up and live life to the fullest for themselves and for him, for them.
Junior dedicates that same exact message to the teachers at Apalachee High School as well. He wants everybody who was affected by the tragedy at Apalachee to know that they are supported and that they're not alone, whether they were affected physically or mentally. A year later, the support from this community is what keeps the Angulos going. Chi Nation is forever strong and resilient. In Winder tonight, Angelina Salcido, 11 Alive News.
And we are certainly grateful to the Angulo family for sharing their story with us. Meanwhile, as the community looks to heal, the accused teenage shooter, Colt Gray, and his father, Colin, are still awaiting trial. We learned today Colin Gray is set to go on trial February 9th. Colin Gray is accused of providing the gun prosecutors say his son used in the shooting. His case marks the first of its kind here in Georgia, where a parent is being held liable for a crime their child is accused of committing. Colt Gray, now 15 years old, has also yet to stand trial. Last fall, a grand jury indicted him on 55 criminal counts and is being charged as an adult. His previous attorneys say that they are considering a non-negotiated plea after his father's trial is completed.